did so many wrong things in my life, but now I'm in my right mind, right mind.
My name is Jay Faith, right here with the Right Mind Wednesdays podcast. It is time to get your pencils out, get your notepads out. It's time to get in our right mind. And today we got with us my co-host here.
What's up? My name is L.Y.F.E, Right Mind Wednesdays podcast. We back.
Awesome. As you can see, we are missing our third partner in crime, Kayla. She is enjoying a wonderful vacation, which is very much deserved. So we hope that she is just enjoying it. I know that she's with us in spirit. She is bummed that she's missing this podcast, as many of them. She always loves to be a part of the podcast. So shout out to Kayla again. Hope she's just getting the much needed rest, recuperation, everything that she could possibly get out of a vacation that she's looking for. But I want to welcome back my man Anthony Petrelis from the Beyond podcast. How's everything going, man?
Good, man. It's great to be back. I'm super excited. I had such a great time last time, so it's great to follow up.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I looked back and I think you were episode, it was either 28 or 38, which to me is still a super long time ago.
Yeah.
And definitely a different situation. I think I was still recording from home and everything too at that point.
Yeah, you were a solo act too,
Yep.
You were a solo act.
Yep. We've definitely transitioned. It's been awesome though, but how's everything been with you with the podcast and finishing up all the different seasons for this year?
Yeah, this year 2 was great. I feel like we didn't really skip a beat. We kind of thought, hey, maybe we hit the acceleration button in certain areas. And, we also kind of like stepped back in our business a little bit and kind of made some decisions that we felt were like best for us at this point, the size that we are and what we thought we could do or what we think we are doing truthfully this season is kind of deciding like year 1 when we talked, like I was chasing games everywhere. Like I was going to like state championship games, or we got lucky in a couple teams that we followed, made runs in the tournament. And so we reached back out to them and they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you come back. And I was chasing games and, I have twins at home, young kids, and, it's a lot to put on, people to assist me and help me out. So we decided to corner a market and just kind of start in the area that we live and that I teach in. And we decided like Medford, Malden, Arlington were just 3 cities and towns that we were just going to attack because in those cities and towns come Catholic schools and private schools. So you get a couple extra and you're not traveling as far. It's an easy commute. You get home in a reasonable hour, like work's just a little bit easier. So we stepped back and we did that. And it's a great move for us. I feel like we've still increase the amount of coverage that we have, and we kind of just dominate an area. And this fall, where a couple other schools have reached out to us, like almost up that like 93 split in a way. So it's just kind of for us convenient and easy. And so we're super excited that we made the decision that we made, and we feel like it's kind of paid off. So it's cool.
Yeah, it sounds definitely super beneficial. On many platforms, obviously, first and foremost is family. You've been able to, make sure that you're not just exhausting hours. You have 2 little ones and, those are important to you as always. But just being able to, kind of balance everything out. That's super awesome first and foremost. And then just to be able, even as you say, kind of taking that step back, you still were able to kind of progress as well too. And just the area and the people that you're covering and again, getting on like another client and stuff too. Super dope.
Yeah. So we're excited, and we've saved up enough from a lot of our gigs to really purchase that like next level camera equipment and lenses. So we're also really excited in the fall, especially with football. We're booked like 7 games already. Nice. And we're just kind of excited to be like, man, now we have a way better camera than our cell phones to capture this stuff. And we know exactly what we're looking for. And we just now have a better like all around like equipment and product to now produce that like there's plenty of young kids out there, like high school kids or just like college kids that are killing it. Like the stuff they catch and the music they put on is better than what we honestly can do. But
Mhm.
we give a package. Like we also have you on the podcast as coaches and athletes. We help promote them. We take highlight clips or make highlight tapes, which now we're dabbling into of these schools that we're covering and word of mouth and people saying, hey, do you do this and you do that? And you're like, oh, this door is opening up. This is, I didn't even think of this, you know?
Yeah.
And we just did like a softball player, a junior from Arlington, and she's tremendous. Like, pitched like a lights out game when we covered her. We did like a skills and drills session with her, and she plays for an AAU team that now parents are asking about the video we made and how do we get one and what the pricing is. So now this is kind of like, we're glad we took that step back because again, that's Arlington, like that's local, that was our plan, like,
Yeah.
and now these doors are opening up. So we're excited. Like we're excited that I'm sure we're going to hit roadblocks and walls and have peaks and valleys, but I don't know. I feel like every button we're pushing right now, like we're really just kind of hitting the acceleration button. I think what's slowing us down right now, truthfully, is just time and manpower. Like
Yeah.
I feel like if we can start building that up, there's not something like this that's really out there in high school sports, and it's not necessarily this huge thing. But think about every high school kid, including ourselves, that when we see ourselves on film, we weren't rewinding it like 10 times to watch the same thing over
Yeah.
and over and over again. Like now we're putting this product together that comes on Instagram that we can have an 18-year-old kid or a 17-year-old kid talking about their college recruitment and what they're looking at and what they've accomplished in high school and who they are as a student and what they do outside of sports and like who they are as a person. Like you're getting a leg up in any recruiting process when you and athletes are identical. Like you might be a stud in high school, but there's 20 of you also in high school that are going for the same spot. Like, so you need anything that can separate you. And going on a podcast, like a lot of kids said they've used it with coaches and it's helped with recruitment. So we're getting cool feedback from it. And again, it's a part of our stepping back and saying, all right, what can we just be dynamite on right now before we start dabbling in everything,
Oh yeah. And like that is, I mean, amazing too, like especially like in this area because there's so many really, really good players that like don't get seen at all. Like that I don't even know about, you know what I mean? So it's great that you highlight people like in this area, like in particular.
Yeah, and like we got lucky, like even a couple of coaches that we've had on the podcast then see that we do this other stuff and they're like, "Hey, like we hit gold." I had the boys basketball coach at Beverly High School on. Beverly High School is their tough, good football
Yeah.
program, basketball program, everything.
Oh yeah.
And they had his stud, his kid Ryder Frost. He plays for the Middlesex Magic. He's just transferred out. I think he's like repeating his junior year private. This kid's a legitimate Division I prospect. He's a 6'5", kid that can shoot threes and plays inside really well and has a good like 15-foot jump shot. Like he's legit, and he's repeating his junior year, and he plays with the Middlesex Magic, which is ran tremendously. And we get lucky and get to cover a kid like that who's dunking at the Garden, and like how cool is
awesome.
that,
Yeah.
So
That's super dope.
It's fun to cover this aspect of it and just kind of creating a market as we go.
Yeah, that's what I was telling Life before we came on. Is you're able to capture those highlight reels, if you will, and just those different shots for kids to be able to look back on and share and go up to college coaches or even high school coaches, whatever it may be, whatever a coach is, and be like, hey, like here's me playing. You want to see me play? Like here you go. And like this is a little bit more about me too, like the insider look coming on the podcast and being able to see how you are well-rounded, which is what a lot of schools look for too. I mean, obviously they're recruiting for sports, but they want those players that are also well-rounded people. And to see, are you going to be coachable? Are you somebody that if I have an issue with you, for you playing, that you're not going to storm out and have a hissy fit, or are you going to buckle your bootstraps, tie your shoes tighter, and get back to work type of thing.
Yeah, and that's like what's like the funniest things, like when coaches like we're catching them giving like a pregame speech or they're like trying to get the kids fired up. They'll be like, like we're gonna say some stuff we shouldn't say. It's like, listen, I've coached for such a long time. I know I'm not putting that on there. Like I will edit it and like make it still look good and presentable. Like I know I'm not gonna get you dropping an F-bomb. Like
Right.
I know you can't afford that. Like, so it's like funny when you have those conversations and coverage. Yeah, and like you said, I mean, for me, I'm a coach. Like that's how I started this podcast. That's why I started this podcast. Like I understood the world of coaching and how much work it is and how difficult it is. And then how many coaches are also educators even within that school system or other school systems. And you're having these positive role models around them. Like to me, there's just such avenues of coaching that people don't even think about when it comes to them as people, especially people who've had programs for like 10, 15, 20 years that are successful and consistent. And that's unbelievable. Like that's something that someone who runs a business or somebody who runs a team, like in other avenues of life, they should listen to how they effectively run a chain of command program that is consistent year in and year out and what's expected of your players, or in the business world, what's expected of your employees, right? So like I just think there's such stories to tell, and we've had some tremendous coaches on. And I think part of that has led us to the coverage that we're doing. And we've kind of sort of not totally switched gears, but I think we're just going through a phase right now that, and we plan this, that we really want to start having more athletes on because these kids are going to like, if I get a coach who's unbelievable, 25-year head coach, he's probably in his like late 50s, early 60s, doesn't really get Instagram, doesn't really get Facebook, kind of sort of gets Twitter because they probably have to have that as like for their program to communicate things. They're not like reposting stuff and like showing themselves off on this podcast. And I get it, like modest, like I'm very much like that. But it's also not super beneficial for me besides my audience, and I'm not getting introduced to other audiences. So when you do that with kids, they're like better than me on like Instagram, right? Like
They know
so
everything. It's
they
crazy.
kind of can tell me stuff that I'm like, oh, you can, oh, cool. And now then I start using that from that point on, also doing something a little bit different. And that's like I said, like when we were younger, we'd love to watch stuff of ourselves. Like these kids want to see themselves. And I want to create something that's cool that not only can we cover you as a person on the field or on the court or in the rink or whatever, like we're also covering you as a person. And high school kids have reached, I mean, we have gotten so many DMs. I was captain of this team, and I'm like, they tell you everything about because they want to get on it. And to me, that's like really cool. I think it's really cool and a direction that we're kind of going towards more, but also highlighting coaches that run tremendous programs or coaches that are doing tremendous things in their community or are tremendous people in general. Like to me, that's always going to be the heart and soul of this podcast. But right now in the growing phase, it's really getting as much free exposure as you possibly can through kids on social media.
And I think it goes hand in hand too, because if you're able to kind of highlight those coaches, right, and then it's their level of coaching is reflected into how they coach their kids, how the team performs, everything like that. It also kind of brings awareness for other schools that may be looking to recruit, going, oh, that coach, yeah, they have a pretty good reputation. I've seen what they've done, through the Beyond podcast. And so I know that the kids that are coming from that program are going to do really well. So then when you start covering the kids that are from that school underneath that coach, looking to be on your podcast and then start recruiting, they're going to be like, oh yeah, like I'm connecting dots now. And I know like what you're saying to me can be validated from the coach that I saw, in another episode or another, video clip that you guys have put together. So it's like, it kind of goes hand in hand, as I think about it, how I kind of look at it, you're able to kind of get the best of both worlds, and helping the recruiting process for other schools and to get both perspectives from the coach and the kid too.
Yeah, and what's so important, like for us, like creating this, is to get the understanding that there's cool stuff that goes on behind the scenes in high school sports too, and we want to catch that. Like anybody who ever asked me the coolest moment we caught, nothing compares to this. Like nothing's come close since. And this was very early on when we first started. And like that first year of 2021, when like fall football opened back up and it was like people could go to games and COVID was kind of moving in a different direction, we grinded did games for free. Like if I was going to make a business out of this, like I needed to have like proof of concept of this is what we can do. This is what we can show of your program. And I understood that I couldn't just walk into a program and say, hey, I'm going to charge you $300 to do this stuff, but I have nothing. You're the first person. Like, no,
it's not going to go over well.
No coaches like want to do it. So I understood the importance of that. So I had the head football coach on the podcast, Bob Almeida, who's the head football coach at Stoneham. And Stoneham over the last like 4 or 5 years has been, a 1 or 2 loss team consistently every year in the state semifinals, or this year they went to the Super Bowl and lost to a Train in St. Mary's, who I used to coach against. So I know how good that program is. And they've been very consistent. And we went and covered a Stoneham game because I had him on the podcast. And I said, hey, I'd love to come and cover what you do behind the scenes. So we went to the game. They smoked somebody, and I think it was Wakefield. And then like a month later, they were playing in the league championship game against Wilmington High School. And I live in Wilmington. So I was like, hey, and I knew a couple coaches on the staff that I formerly coached. And so I was like, I'm going to go cover this game. I reached out to the AD. He was like, no problem. We loved what you did the first time. The coach from Stoneham brought back alumni from when he first started coaching at Stoneham, which we'll call it 2007, 2008. So it's 2021 we're in. So you're talking like kids at that point who were maybe early 30s coming in with their Letterman jackets on. Like they open up the shed and they come out of the shed, and it is like 25 alumni leading them out, like grown men, like going crazy, like they were about to play in the game. And I just happened, it was like, oh, I'm just going to get the shed opening. I think that would be a cool shot, to literally the coolest thing that I've ever caught. And even afterwards, like people were DMing us and like writing, comments like that intro was unbelievable. Them coming out of the shed was unbelievable. And we got lucky, so I think cool. When you can catch cool stuff like that, and people come out, like we covered Nat and the Shober Tech this year, and they had the bagpipes. They had guys playing the bagpipes, and they came on a humongous, like 150-yard walk from the locker room to the field. Wow. And the bagpipes are just playing, and I'm like, man, the other team is just sitting there just like waiting, and they're playing this music, and it's getting louder, and the kids are roaring, like cool intro, So that's the fun stuff that I think really sells with good PR for the program, good PR for the school, good PR for the town. Like it's a win-win for everybody, Yeah,
because you capture what's the word I'm looking for? It's like at the tip of my brain. But you capture
like an atmosphere and an environment.
The atmosphere, the community of the school, the bonding that it is, so it just adds more to what you're delivering for the client, or when the client delivers again to the coach, or wherever they're trying to get recruited. You see such a much more broader aspect of it than just, here's a couple plays that they ran, here's a couple shots that they took during a game. It's much more than that.
You're bringing it all together. It's more than just the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think
catching those moments, like not to cut you off, like catching those moments in particular, like that's what it's really like all about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's forever, right? Like in a sense, like I always kind of sell our product as like, hey, we'll cover your senior night or your senior day, or, we'll cover homecoming, or we'll cover, like if they have a mental health awareness game, which like Medford Girls Lacrosse we've covered, right? So like if there's themes, we're like, we'll cover that game and cover that message that you want. So we're also kind of like smart about how we approach programs and looking at their schedule and saying, hey, what do you have going on? Like, we covered Somerville baseball last year, and they played in the Tufts University Classic against Medford. So both, Tufts kind of is in both cities, right? So they played each other at their field, and we covered Somerville, and they won a really close game, 2-1. The kid pitched an absolute gem, and it was awesome to cover. Then this year, Somerville we ended up covering Medford because our relationship with Medford kind of just like was unbelievable. So we covered Medford in the same game, and Tufts had just did their field over, and it looks like a professional, like it's unbelievable. And we're like, it's under the lights, like unbelievable game. And we were able to like cover that. So like sometimes we've gotten really lucky covering one team, and then their opponent happens to like, we tag the opponent in it on social media, and we're just like, hey, like they might have lost this game or whatever, but I want them to at least see the product, because we do balance like a big hit from another team, or a big three from another team, or a big tackle or a touchdown from another team. Like we're showing it, like game's dramatic. Like you want to show that, not just this team did a million awesome things and the other team did nothing. Like that's just not the case, you know? So
but it shows like that they like, you know, overcame that big tackle, or they overcame that interception, or that, you know, super huge block shot, you know, as they were trying to, you know, go up for the layup, and dude just slams it down their throat. But, you know, and then to come back, hit a three at like the buzzer or something, it's like, oh, you thought they were out? Nope, sorry, they came back, ran a super awesome play, you know, pick and roll, open for the three, you know, game over type of thing. You know, so it's almost like the, you know, a movie kind of thing, where you capture like, you know, that breaking point right before you're like, are they gonna win? Are they gonna win? And then they hit the three, and then you're like, okay, all right, cool.
Yeah, and even like, you know, and we're taking shots at like other sports too. Like we covered tennis this year. I mean, I don't know what you know, so we have what's called Beyond All Stars, and we have 12 high school and college athletes in Massachusetts that we kind of highlight and spotlight, and they give us shout outs, and you know, it's a win-win. We gave them like a t-shirt with their name on it, says Beyond All Star on the back, their number, like pretty legitimate. And you know, they send us their clips, we cover them, we've had them on the podcast, blah blah blah. So Malden, we had a really good relationship. When I reached out to the AD, I said, hey, I'd love to have, you know, a male and female athlete, and we you know, represent our podcast. Let me know what you think. And he picks, you know, a female. She was senior, their softball pitcher. He throws gas, like probably pitched all 4 years, I'm assuming. And then he's like, we have the number 3 ranked tennis player in the state of Massachusetts. He's like, I'd love to have him be. And I'm like, great. And this kid is like as humble as can be, and hits like 140 like mile an hour missiles, right? So we had him on the podcast.
No thanks.
Dying, right? And I would be like, how many kids could actually
I have a hard enough time hitting 70 in baseball.
I mean, that if I get 140 mile an hour tennis ball hit at me, there's no way I'm making contact with it. Like, there's no way. Like,
it's going through my racket.
It's going through my head. Like,
so I'm watching him play, so we're covering it, and I have the camera on him, obviously, because hey, number 3 is number 3. Like, you know, I'm not covering many kids like this in other sports. So he's just like maybe half playing. And then he like looks at me at one point, he like kind of like winks. I'm like, okay, and like turn the camera back on a little bit, and he hits an absolute torpedo, and the kid like didn't even move because it bounced by him so quick that like he didn't even react to it. And we were like, oh my God. And we caught it, you know, and so that was like the highlight of the video, was just like, you rewind it, it's like you don't even see the tennis ball. And I'm like, man. So we take chances in sports. We've covered gymnastics, for example. We've covered rugby. Like, so we've covered sports that are different, and getting that. I mean, there's not many high school programs that have rugby, but those teams like murdered each other, and they like loved it. And it was just so interesting to cover. But yeah, so that's, you know, I think that is kind of like our formula too. Like maybe eventually we revisit like what we cover, or what we feel like is softball's awesome, basketball's awesome, football awesome, other sports are awesome too, but from a coverage standpoint and best highlights you're gonna get, those are the 3 sports that your video is gonna be the dopest, period. Like in other sports, you might get lucky. You know, lacrosse is it's tough. Lacrosse is tough to cover because there's no movement, and then all of a sudden it is like lightning, and everyone is moving fast. Like it's tough to cover. You know.
But I mean, I think it's good that you keep yourselves kind of open too, you know, and just having those opportunities, because you never know what one thing is going to lead to another. So doing that rugby, doing gymnastics, although it may not be the highlight reels that most people kind of look for, it's still, as a business, it's just cool because then people can be like, okay, like it isn't just football or basketball or softball, like the mainstream sports, if you will, but like you can get coverage because there is still recruitment out there for those things. So thinking business wise, I think that's a great way to just kind of keep things open, but obviously you're being realistic with it too. And is it really going to work for us? Is it going to be something that is beneficial? Because then obviously once you start adding those things on there, the workload starts to add up because now you have multiple sports throughout a different season. So but you guys seem to be playing it just really smart and strategic and just making sure that you're not just overexerting yourselves.
Yeah, and I think that that's like key to anything, right? Like we podcast, you guys do too. Like like you sometimes you have these like visions of I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, I want to do that.
Yep.
And it's like not like sometimes then you like look at it and you're like, I can't really do that. And like it's
not
like
happening.
and it's tough because then it mentally messes with you because then you're like, all right, am I being lazy? Am I not like wanting to do the next big thing for my business or my podcast? And so that's a struggle too that I know I struggle with is like when I want to do something and then a bunch of things pop up or just like life is life. And
Yep.
I get down on myself sometimes because I'm like, man, that would have been great. Oh man, we missed a golden opportunity here. And so it is also really hard doing what we do too, because you're passionate about it and you love it and you want to put the best product or show it off the best way you can. Um, but sometimes you just can't be everywhere at once. And
Yeah.
that's like, again, just sometimes I personally struggle with that because when I think I miss an opportunity now, I'm like, damn, like when's the next big thing that's going to pop up? And I'm almost just like obsessing about it sometimes. So it's like, it's hard too when you care about what you do and you really love it. Sometimes the toll it can take on you a little bit if you're not maybe moving at the pace or maybe not growing, but maybe not hitting on things like you thought you would, and
But no, we're good. And this and this exact reason is why I now pre-record because
yeah, dude.
I remember the good old days. But yeah, to get back on where you were, we're definitely kind of in the same position when it comes to really trying to hit opportunities, things that are happening. Obviously, we try to touch if it's like a specific for us as our podcast in particular, trying to hit like different topics. Like this month is like men's mental health. We were able to cover that, but there's definitely been like past months that I've looked back and I've seen people post about it. I'm like, oh man, like that would have been really cool for our podcast to talk about. And then we kind of like take a step back and just say, well, we don't want to chase after it, if there's like a couple days left in the month and try to chase after it to, whip something up together, just to whip something up together to bring notice to whatever that may be. So we kind of just, like you said, they just kind of reflect and, be like, man, like we really missed that. But I think we've definitely been a lot better, as a team. And it's definitely helped me having these guys. And I'm sure you have an amazing team, not saying that they're slacking on you in any way to help make you miss anything, but it's definitely been super helpful for me to have these guys here, as just another ear, another voice in my ear, just like, hey, like this is coming up, or hey, we should try this, hey, we should do this, it's been super cool. But I've definitely been in that position. Even now, some days I'm like, man, we could be doing so much more. We could, like you said before, with the the iPhone and the new recording equipment, we're kind of in the same predicament type of thing. So it's like we always feel like we could be doing more and doing more and more, but again, we have to take that step back and just say, look back at
it might not be the time, like at that point, but
that
like, at
too.
least you have it in your mind, and then like when another opportunity comes up, it could be like better than what you were thinking about, and like now you know how to attack it. Now it's okay, like you're ready for that moment at that time, and then it helps you out even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just like sometimes it's just being realistic too. I think like
Yeah.
everyone wants to conquer the world, right? But like I'd settle for 3 or 4 towns and what we do, right? Like I know we have a pretty good formula of what we're doing, and I think like for us, it's really just a 2-man show. Like I like do our like I have a phenomenal editor in John Sensabar who has become a really good friend, and I think the biggest reason we click is because, we both are dads of like young kids. As a daughter in high school, so she
Mhm.
plays sports. He drives her. He's very active in coaching her and going to all of her games, and so he's invested, and as a result of that, like it's nice that we also have these connections because he has these connections through now a softball program or a basketball
Mhm.
program, and I have my connections through the coaching world, and I'm able to get us gigs. So like it is nice to be able to have someone like you say, like someone like another eyes and ears or another thought or another brain or another whatever, like to help formulate and put together your show and your direction and everything else. So the two of us, like we work hard, like we're texting late night, we're FaceTiming with each other, just trying to throw ideas. Like a
Mhm.
really cool thing tonight, like I had this podcast and back in April, he approached me about John's like, hey, my nephew plays baseball in West Peabody. They're looking for like people to be sponsors and signs and put in the outfield. Like maybe we could have put a Beyond thing up. I go, send me the pamphlet. So he sends it and I look at him like, dude, we can like have a team named after us. Like, and
That's
it
pretty
was
cool.
to me, it was cheaper than like putting our advertisement in the outfield or something like that. I'm like, we can
Mhm.
cover this team. We can like do sorts of fun stats and like go cover a couple games and like now throw ourselves in the youth level and parents being like,
Mhm.
that's a cool video. Yeah, we do it and we charge this. Like, and now that's a new
Oh,
a kid playing, baseball when they're 8, 9 years old because all they have to do is click a link or go on YouTube or open something that was sent to them and it's there forever. Like you have that
mhm.
forever and you're not digging through things or trying to locate pictures or videos like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
had that somewhere, but I can't remember or I can't figure out how to put this on this." Like it's already done for you and it costs you
Mhm.
a few bucks, right? So,
Yeah.
but our team won the championship tonight. John went and covered and they won the
Congrats.
championship. So now we're like, we just sponsored a team, so we're gonna do like we have a segment called the Owners Box that we're gonna do, and like so it's just like really fun things that we can also dabble in and keep ourselves and showing a different side of us and showing our personalities a little bit more, or just showing like I'm a teacher, I'm a dad, like I coach, like I am invested in youth, like I've done a lot of my life has been put towards that type of public service, into being a good influence and a good role model, and to help direct kids in the right direction. And it doesn't matter their age. I mean, I'm a fifth grade teacher. I coach high school kids, and I joked about it last time I think on the podcast, but you would be surprised how similar I have to talk to both age groups. Like
Yeah.
how you talk to them, your tone and delivery might be a little different, but for the most part, you are 85% of the time having the same exact conversation or how you at least approach the conversation of having that, whether it's constructive criticism or tough love or whatever you want to call it, but to be able to do it in a way that's adaptable and understanding your player or understanding your student and how to make them understand that. And those could be two completely different things, or they could be exactly the same thing. So
Yeah.
it's also using those skills from my job and my life and what I've kind of dedicated to also help know the right things to cover or the right things to post or the right questions to ask or the right trailer to put together. So it's a game, man. It's fun. It's fun to
Yeah.
play it.
Right. Yeah. I personally believe we definitely have to put our personal lives kind of into, whatever it is that we're doing, to just kind of go off of what you just said of just, the skill sets that you have, the experience that you've had, because it can't stem further from that. Like it can't be something that you're trying to recreate, and it's going to work a lot more smoothly when you're just implementing what you already know. Because like it just reminded me of the conversation that Life and I were having just off air of some marketing strategies of things that we're trying to do as a podcast. And I'm like, dude, I went to school for management and marketing. Like, these are things that I have experience with. Like, I should be kind of more in tapped with those things. So it's like, okay, like, let's like recenter ourselves, think about, what skill sets you also have, because one of the things that I've learned over the past couple of years is a lot of the times the answers that we're searching for, we already have them. Yeah, we haven't like tapped into it, or we're looking too closely at it instead of taking a step back and being like, oh yeah, you have that marketing degree. Why don't you use that marketing degree towards your podcast? And, because I'll have people say like, oh, well, why don't you try this? And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like, I should know these things. I know I'm a few years from college and graduating, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you have the answers, because again, we have these conversations. Oh, what should we do? I don't know, man. Oh, I'm struggling to figure out what we should do next.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you have the answer. Like, take a second and just think about it and trust the knowledge that you have and who you are.
Yeah, and I think that that's like so important that you said that, because that's like how I figured out what we were going to do next with our business. Because, like I said, year one, we had so many great highlights and games and state championship games or state semifinal games that we caught, and it was awesome, but it was exhausting. And it was just like, man, this is not sustainable at the position in my life that I'm in. But yet what we're doing is great. So like, how do we figure out how to like compact it for now before figuring out the next step to grow? And that can be really hard. And what's hard about this is like, what I love about yours, I love your social media in a lot of different ways. I think that you're a super positive person. Like, and to me, you put on the news, you might be watching the news 20 minutes before you see something positive.
Oh,
Everything's murder, killed,
Longer, yeah.
in jail, trials, like whatever. And then all of a sudden there's like a 2-minute segment of something awesome that happened in a community, or something positive that happened. And you're just like, this is crazy. So I look at this podcast and what we do in the complete opposite way of saying, like, I don't want to have the negativity. Like, yeah, there's negative things out there that happen in sports or happen with coaches or happen with programs. I get it. But that's not what I'm covering. Like, there's so much more positive. It's like any job, right? Like, I'm a teacher, and I know I have so many of my friends who go, teachers are complainers. They work 10 months of the year. They have their summers off. They have vacation, blah, blah. And they're not wrong, right? Like, I don't disagree when they say that, because in any job, like, sometimes when I hear people in my profession moan and groan sometimes about the things they moan and groan about, I get why sometimes people might have a certain perception of my occupation in certain lights, in certain ways. And that can be true of any occupation, right? Any occupation, 95% of the people are grinders and work hard. And the 5% is what everybody else pays attention to when they joke about that, right? So, I look at like what we do, and to me, there's just so much positive. There's so many things you can pull out of it. And I just choose to go that route. And maybe I'm censoring things that I don't want on here, but I'm here about positivity. Like, I'm a dad. If you look at my social media, I think that's why I follow your stuff and click, because you're a family guy, you're a faith guy, you work with youth, you travel, like, you love it, you're passionate about it. Like, I love that. Like, to me, that's like, I love when people show that stuff off of what they really care about and what they're really passionate about, because why not? Like, why not let people know what you want to do? And if it's a good thing and you're making a difference, let people see that you love what you do. Yeah, I'm sure there's struggles that we all have outside of what we do, and what we show is what we show, but so what? We're human, like everybody else is human. So I want to show the good things. I want to show the positive things that people are going to wake up, or at the end of the day, kids are going to look at that forever and say, man, I have that moment, or I have that hit, or I have that touchdown, or I have that like moment that I'll never forget. And I sacrificed a few hours one night to catch it. So, it's how you look at things, I think, of what you do and why you're passionate about it. And, the effect that it has not only on them, but also what it has on you. And I'm happy when I do this stuff. Like,
same.
I wouldn't do stuff if I was not happy. So, man, I just wanted to say that about you, because I've seen you grow, and you have co-host on, and I've flirted with that quite a bit of getting more personalities on here that can really help drive a conversation or drive a topic that you want to hit upon or talk about. And I listen to you guys. I listen to your quick sound bites. There's soundbite, and I'm sorry, I forget the woman's name that's on here.
Kayla.
But she was talking about like if she could talk to herself like in the past, and I thought what she said was like really powerful and really cool. And I listened to it a few times, like repeatedly. And I more power to her. I thought that was great at what she said, and I think our podcasts are different in a sense of what we cover or what we talk about, but all of that ties in like Spider-Man's webs, like like it all intertwines. So it is I just wanted to say that because I've been enjoying you guys for real.
Yeah, same. And it's like, even because you were saying like, kind of posting, the positivity and things of that nature, even when, and, for life as well too, when we, kind of and I'm trying to like find the words here, the kind of the basis of like the music that we make and obviously being a part of this podcast is that we do have those struggles as well. Just like Kayla said, in her response to her own question about, speaking to her younger self is, she recognized some of the struggles that she had, but she brought the positive out of it. So it's kind of going back to what you said of we do go through struggles, but we're trying to show you that you can make it out of them. There is a way out. It's not always so doom and gloom, but I know I like to do it, and I know you do the same as well, is we talk about those things in a more positive light because we don't want it to just be a human highlight reel, because that's not what life is. It isn't just a giant highlight reel of everything that atypical Instagram wants to show you, of just everybody, I'm on a boat, I'm on this vacation, my kid just graduated. Granted, those are all amazing things. I wish I could do half of those, but that's not all that life is. And no, do you have to divulge your entire story? But, to everybody, no, that's your own personal business. But there's a lot of people that just act according to their Instagram, that everything is just so, butterflies and rainbows, and it's really not like that. And then you have kids and younger adults that are going to Instagram because we're just in the age of technology, and they're seeing this, and then they're saying, okay, that's what life has to be. So if I don't have that, then there must be something wrong with my life, right, in some way, shape, or form, whatever scale that you want to put that on. It can definitely vary in scales, but that's the problem. So like when, that's why I feel like when we put up stuff of, man, it's been a really tough year. I haven't dropped an album in a year, and, it's been really tough. My mental's not there, but you know what? I got an album coming for you. It's coming soon, and it's some of the best work that I've ever done. Like, that shows the growth. It shows that you can come over those things, that you are going to have tough moments, but some good can come of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's also sport in a sense.
Exactly.
When kids are going through mental struggles, or what's like, I wasn't until I got like a little bit older and coaching. Like when I was a young coach, it was fiery, and like all I cared about was the product on the field, and I didn't invest myself so much on the stuff outside the field till you start becoming more the veteran coach on the staff, and you understand that this is the stuff that had been done. You're now taking that role, that now becomes your role. And when you own that role, like, it changed the way I looked at coaching. It changed the way that I looked at like how I approach kids, and even helped me with my teaching, and my teaching helped me with coaching. Like all of that, like that all helps you, that mental psyche. And I think like I used to say, like, younger coaches, like, we don't know what this kid went through in school today. Like, his girlfriend could have broke up with him, could have gone to a fight, he could have failed a test, he could have gone to an argument with his parents before he left for school. He could be struggling with something that we just don't know or understand, right? And that's like how like I would approach coaching, and even how I approach teaching. Like when I was younger, it probably was a lot different and more fiery, maybe a little less patient. As I got older, I understood how much more mental health can affect people, or what they're going through on a daily basis. And I think sometimes, even when we cover games, we will show a clip that is just another clip to us, but then we get message from a family, or we get message from a school or program being like, you don't understand what this kid's been through. And for you guys to catch that the way that you caught it and put that on there means the world. Or this kid is a role model of this program and everything that's right about it. And thank you for catching this. And we had no idea. To us, it was just like another clip. But
Yeah.
then you realize, like, man, we do have impact. We do have an opportunity to catch someone who's maybe an unsung hero or somebody who's not necessarily going to light up the stat sheet, but makes a big play or comes in and does something right. Or in football, sometimes we catch, like, everyone follows the ball, and then I'm watching it as a coach, and I'm like, that kid just made an unbelievable block, and he just pulled and took down this end and was able to cut this linebacker. Like, holy moly, he took out 2 or 3 guys in this play. But everyone's just watching the ball. So we're able to kind of go back and slow that down and, like, show that off. Like, linemen, man, they love pancakes and their maple syrup, right? Like, those dudes are like, they love that you see that as a camera person and you're catching that or paying attention. And, like, when you're covering certain offenses, like, I'll tell the film guy, I'm like, these guards and tackles are going to pull every play. Like, let's get behind the line and really focus on those guys pulling and zooming in, and, like, let's show the guys in the trenches doing some work, where other programs don't always cover that. And a coach looks at that being like, this is exactly what we want. This is the view that we want, or the angle that we want, or we're seeing how the line is pulling and working, and who they blocking, one technique or three. Like, that stuff is, to me, I geek out on that. And for programs, they love that, because to have a camera person come in and not just be about catching the big catch or the big hit or some kid celebrating, but you're catching things that an average fan would never even notice, even if you told them to pay attention to it. So, like, that stuff's been cool to give kids, like, a beacon of light that maybe don't always get highlighted because they're not playing that position, or, like I said, lighten up that stat sheet.
Yeah, or just having a rough day. I remember plenty games that I went into the game just completely pissed off, and it was a rough game. I would not have a good game just because my mood was completely changed. And then when you have a coach that, not to put him down, I had an amazing high school basketball coach, but just as an example, you're having a rough game, and then you have a coach that is, like, drilling you because you're not having a good game, but not trying to understand that there's a lot of mentality that is kind of affecting you in how you're playing that, could change, and just being like, hey man, like, what's going on? Like, what's going on? Like, why are you playing? Maybe if they know that you play to a much different caliber level, and then all of a sudden you're not playing at that caliber, hopefully, coaches are recognizing that, and not just, oh, you're slacking off today, what are you doing? Stop being lazy. But, like, really kind of diving into it, especially today's day and age, of just seeing how the kid is doing, and just being like, hey, what's going on, man? Like, is everything cool? Just to have that check-in, because you really don't know. And we've said this, like, the past couple podcasts, you don't know what people are dealing with internally, or, within the past couple of days, that have just really maybe just set them off, that they're not in that good headspace. And, I know, as a former athlete and still kind of trying to be one, but it can affect you a lot of the times. And it's great that, you're able to capture, even in a rough game, one positive moment that could maybe be like, like, I was having a really rough game, but, thank you for highlighting that, one good play that I did that just boosted my mood to know that my entire game wasn't necessarily just rough.
Yeah, and even for us, like, we covered Somerville High School basketball, and they had just opened a new high school, and their gym was phenomenal. We were covering opening night, and the whole city was there. And the night before, we covered their practice, and, we did our own narration, and we were really happy with the product. But there was one kid who was, like, you could just tell he was, like, uber athletic. Like, he was doing stuff on the sideline with, like, no shoes on, and he was just kind of jumping out of the gym. And we're like,
Yeah,
why is this kid, like, not on the court? It doesn't look like he's hurt. Like, and then we went over, and he's just like, I don't have shoes to fit. And as a result of it, like, I'm trying to get better from this, like, horrible ingrown toenail that I had. And he, like, showed us, and it was, like, nasty. Like, it was. And I get, like, okay, he definitely might be running around, but he can't put a shoe on. Like, it's clear, because the shoe he has doesn't even fit him. It's like a size too small. So after we, like, filmed him, whatever, like, my editor, John, and I, like, we talked it out, and I was like, we're going to get this kid. Let's go get this kid shoes. Like, this is crazy, And so we told the coach, we're like, hey, we're going to go get this kid shoes, and went down to Assembly Row, went to Nike, and I think we got him Kyrie's. I think I forget what we got him, but the next day we showed up to the game and we gave him to him. And obviously we filmed the moment. We had him kind of come out in an open area where nobody was really around, and we weren't trying to do it and blow ourselves up. We were doing it because we thought it was the right thing to do, and we caught the moment because I feel like someone sees that we're doing that. Maybe one person out of how many people view it then go do that for somebody else, or they're just like more aware of like things that maybe they would never even think of. Like a kid can't play because he literally can't have shoes, and he's like, I'm gonna play next week when I get my paycheck from working. Like I can go out and buy his shoes, and that's when we were just like, we gotta get this kid shoes. So and that stuff also we would never be able to do or know if we weren't covering and being a part of everything. So that's
super awesome. That's really super awesome, man. And I know you don't do it to pat yourself on the back or to, hey, everybody look at me type of thing. I definitely know that for sure. It really is just, just seeing people in need and just, jumping at it without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because you never know, like you said, like, oh, look at this kid. He can't even doesn't have shoes on. He's trying to play basketball, and it could have gone multiple ways. People could have been like, "Man, like, why doesn't he have shoes on? He doesn't have money for it, or he's being a bum." Like, just things that people say. Not that I'm saying it, but he's a bum or whatever. And it's like, dude, maybe he just can't afford shoes. Like, maybe life is just that hard, and he's just like trying to find a way to play basketball, and that's what could be his saving grace. You never know, and until people open up and give people opportunities, that talent can kind of go to waste if not addressed. We say that with music and everything else, and it all ties in together. If kids aren't getting these opportunities and exactly what you're doing of getting the film and the highlights and everything so that they have those things to show to coaches, like those are opening up doors and opportunities that, I mean, I know when I went to school and was an athlete, I maybe got like 2-3 videos maybe in the 8 years that I played sports, versus what you're doing now, where you can get a whole combination of highlight reels that you can share and hopefully get you recruited or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I think for us, like, I'm trying to grow a brand. I think like that's kind of what we step back and realize too. Like, and I'm swinging for it. Like, and I know building a brand is not easy in any category or anything, but it's like I'm all in on it because it's not like I'm quitting my day job yet, right? And I say that positively, right?
Yeah.
But like, I love teaching, and teaching is a huge part of my life. And what I've figured out as a formula is I really thought about this. And, I've met with I've done like groups on like in Instagram, like influencer groups that you kind of go into and you listen to how people run their podcasts or run their business and different things that they do. And you share. And every majority of the people that were in there, it was full time for them. Like they were all in on it, but they were all in it on full time, that they were like breakfast, lunch, and dinner for it. And it's just not a reality for me. And so what I've tried to figure out is how can I work on this and still be effective at my everyday job that pays all the bills and that I love and I am passionate about? Where do I find the time? Because editing till 2:00 in the morning and then waking up when your twins are crying at 6:30. And I know some parents have worse, kids wake up way earlier than that, but when you're just like working and that's just like Groundhog's Day every day, it does take a toll on you, like physically and mentally. And sometimes just being focused on paying attention to people or paying attention to people in your life or paying attention to like things that are also important, but you're so tired, you're letting like slip through. So what I kind of decided to do was I felt like we have a lot of sponsors. We have restaurants that sponsor us, quick food spots that like sports athletic places, personal trainers. Like we work with a lot of different businesses and our relationship's different. Like some of it is financial. Some of it is about being able to get swag or being able to get hats or shirts and have merchandise deals with people. Like, so we are kind of like working with different people that are helping us in a way just get us small things that we know we need right now to help expose the bigger picture. So I looked at us and said, man, I really want to show off my personality more. Like, I want people to see what I do during the day, because who I am and what you see on the podcast is also who I am in my everyday job with kids and adults. And I laugh and I joke a lot and I plan. And when I teach, like, I'm a planner and like I'm an executor. Like, I love teaching. My style's different. Like, my class, it's a good atmosphere, it's a good culture, and that's like, to me, that's how sports teams are successful and consistent at the high school
definitely.
level. So I want my classroom, when kids come in, to feel safe. They want to learn. They're interested to come to school. They're excited to come to school. I have them sign social media waivers. We put videos together of what they're doing and what we're covering in class and showing growth. And yeah, like, we have fun with it. So I've now kind of done that with school. And I started doing morning announcements at my school, and they started videotaping it. We call it the McGlynn Morning Show. That's like the name of my school, the McGlynn. And we created a rock, paper, scissors tournament between the students.
I saw that. That was awesome.
It is blown up. Like, it
That
is
is
like,
awesome.
I get more messages, and I've gotten sponsors because of the morning show that I
Wow.
do with my kids. It's like a minute and a half reel of like just summing up this rock, paper, scissors tournament. And the right kid won, in the sense of like personality and shy and humble, and it has helped him become so much more confident. He wears a suit and tie to school when he goes against people. We've had
That's
the mayor
cool.
come in of the city and he's beaten him.
Wow.
He's had the chief of police come in, he's beaten him. We had the sheriff of Middlesex County randomly send like a trash talk video. So we invited him in and like he beat him. And we had Carrie Kavanaugh, who works at Boston 25 News. She openly challenged us. We had her come in. She beat him, and then his rematch clause, which not a lot of people know about in his contract, got him a rematch, and he won his title back. And it was on Boston 25 News. They did like a 3-minute segment about this rock, paper, scissors and how she went in and went against them, and it was on the news. Like,
That's awesome.
so we feel like we've hit a home run, like doing this in school, and it's helping my brand out. Yes, that's the name of the show, the McGlynn Morning Show, but it's also showing what we're capable of doing and how involved in our communities we are. And I teach in Medford, and I've covered Medford football, Medford hockey, boys and girls, Medford girls and boys basketball. I've covered Medford baseball, I've covered Medford softball, I've covered Medford, like, I'm missing something. Gymnastics. Like, I've covered almost any sport that you can cover, boys and girls across, like every sport you can imagine. And I've had a lot of these kids in school. I've had an influence on a lot of them, and I've stayed in touch with a lot of the families, or I've had their siblings in school after I've had them. And so it's also like really nice to be able to create something that is just like all in. Like, I'll tell you this because it's funny. Tomorrow, we've reached out to our superintendent like twice, and she hasn't responded to our email. So I get it. She's extremely busy and like whatever. So we're kind of creating an angle. So I had a few birdies in that area that work in the administrative area help me figure out a time that she was going to be there. And tomorrow we have like an army of 50 kids going up after school. The champ has a belt. Like, the mayor got him like a WWE legit
Nice.
type rock, paper, scissors belt. And we're going up, and she doesn't even know we're coming up, and we're openly challenging her. We're going to knock on her door and like videotape the whole thing. And
That's awesome.
who knows? I might lose my job, right? But like, what
It's worth it.
content? Like, what content?
It's worth it though.
Right?
Because
it's worth
like
it.
and it's something so simple, but there's so many different skills that are put into that too. I mean, I can imagine the confidence level that has been boosted in that, shy, modest kid, to just build that confidence level to that. And then, like you said, like, he's showing up in a suit and tie, he's being presented opportunities and going and meeting a lot of different people over, and not to make it sound like it's this little thing, but like rock, paper, scissors, like, and I got to meet all of these people, and, and just really, again, it doesn't have, in teaching, it doesn't have to be this super rocket sciencey, over the top type of thing. It can be the simplest things that have the biggest impact on the kids.
Yeah, and to us, like, we look at it from a brand perspective, and we know that we cover high school sports, and we even cover some of our athletes, like kids who I recruited when I was coaching that are playing collegiately. Like, one of the kids was, he just signed with Bentley University to play football as a quarterback.
Nice.
And like, so it's like, it's also like and this kid is a grinder, man. Like I could talk about this kid on a whole episode alone of what he's done. But that's like the type of stuff that I know I just want this podcast to be involved in. It's sports, but then it's also we talk about that, we cover the community aspect, and we cover that stuff. Now we're also covering it like youth level sports. We're covering it in school communities. Like we are showing off that we want to just be a feel good podcast that covers young kids and them growing and them experiencing and them going through tough times and them highlights in sports and them being involved in funny things in school. Like we just know that what we do is such a positive effect on such a bigger picture that we want to create a business out of it, and we want to create it the right way. I don't charge $1 million for what I do because I know I'm not that person. But what I can tell them is I'm going to capture blah, 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 all this awesome stuff because I've coached, I taught, and I'm a dad. I'm invested in the community that I live in. I'm invested in the community that I teach in. Like I am telling you, cities and towns and schools and programs want this PR. Youth programs want this PR, and we're going to give it to them. We're going to give it to them in a way that shows what we can do with our camera work and catching these amazing clips, to us being funny behind the scenes and rating concession stands and pizzas and pretzels and all the fun stuff that we do when we go to games, to being able to have people on a podcast and have deep discussions or talk about their programs and how they do things, to anything. And we know right now that that's what we are and that's what we want to be. And we just feel like exposure's exposure. We'll judge a pie eating contest. We'll go cover a boxing match. We've covered MMA. We have an MMA fighter who's kid Mike Bolger, who's like unbelievable.
That's
and, like,
cool.
Murdering people. And he's a great kid and he's super hardworking. And we met him through social media and a couple coaches that we had on the podcast. And yeah, we're like covering his fights, like where he wants us to do like an all access. Like, so there's just so many things that like we're just getting into that sky's the limit, and we know it. And once we can get interns and get a little bit bigger, I think, yeah, we'll be interesting. So we'll be interesting to see what happens, you know.
Would you ever go to the Bedford area?
I would, yeah, I would definitely hike it. Like, to me, I always don't want to travel super far, but I think the only way that you're going to get your brand out there is to go to a couple of high schools that are a little bit further away from you, that play in a little bit of a different conference or league, that they're like, what's this Beyond podcast? What's this? This is kind of cool, because they're all following each other on Twitter. They're all following each other on Instagram. They're all following the same things and seeing what other programs in their league are doing to make sure that maybe off the field, they're just as competitive as far as getting kids in their program, to showing off their weight room, to showing off their 7-on-7s, to showing off their, AAUs or whatever sport that it is. Like, so yeah, we want just to get eyes on that alone, or go to a game and give out a few t-shirts or footballs that have Beyond on or whatever, So, yes, I'd be absolutely willing to travel up there.
I got you. I have something we can chat off air, but something I want to I'll present to you.
Yeah,
and we can chat about it. I think it would be cool for our kids. But we'll talk off air.
Cool.
Regarding that. We'll get more details.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
And yeah, if there's anything I could just like plug here too for me, obviously
of course.
your boy too, Mike Scarfo, but Mike was a really a huge reason why I got the start. He basically came over and did like a Dummies 101 for me to introduce the podcast into what I needed, and
same
all of that, and I'm on my 100th episode. Like, I just did my 99th episode, and
let's go.
I had reached out to Mike about doing my 100th and like interviewing me kind of like this, just because he got me started. And I felt like, man, what better way to do the 100th episode than to have someone who's having a lot of success himself, went in on a studio and is kind of killing it, and to kind of grow together and grow parallel, and to see how well he's doing and how well we're doing. I just felt like he was kind of the right person. So we're going to be doing our episode next Friday, our 100th episode at his studios, AOA Studio. So if you haven't been there, man, you got to get there. Places like,
yeah, I was there.
Dude.
I was there last month because I got into the mixtape that they're doing.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I got to we all went down there and recorded our song, and just collaborated. I got to see the space. The space is amazing.
yeah,
Just the and just space wise too, just the different rooms, and just plenty of space where if you're working on one thing, there isn't something else that's kind of in the way, or kind of bothers you. Like, you can have multiple things going around, multiple creatives all creating at the same time without any real conflict. It's a beautiful space. Like, shout out to him, shout out to Saphir, the whole team over there. It's awesome to see them growing as well too. And I remember, obviously Mike was somebody that helped me get started as well too. So it's cool to see where he's to see his growth too, of where he started from, and then to now having his space and just continuously progressing forward and doing what he
yeah.
does best.
Yeah, and it's just cool to see you guys grow. Like, I mean, to see you guys grow, to see him grow, like, it's cool how we all met, and we all kind of like,
Definitely.
you guys knew each other before, but just clicking with both of you guys, it just seems like we're all very similar and passionate about
Hmm.
this stuff, you know?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool if we could all three of us, like all three podcasts, somehow put something together. I think that would be
That'd be
really
dope.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in. Like, I'm already in.
So we'll hit up Mike, and we'll see how we can get something put together.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, awesome, man. This has been super great. Again, having you back on here, and updating, and just continuing the conversation that we had before. This has been super great. Any final things that you want to plug in, or anything that's coming up for the Beyond podcast?
Not really. I think, just for us, we're really happy in the direction that we're going. And for me, I take a lot of pride in, like, I always joke about Will Smith, right? Like, Will
Mhm.
Smith made millions keeping it clean in the music industry and
Yeah.
creating songs that you could put on in a car or put on in a CD that wasn't going to just randomly drop swears or whatever. And
Yeah.
you figured out how to do it. And for me, I have a similar direction in the sense that we are very clean in what we do, very humorous in what we do. We never cross the line. And that's something I take a lot of pride in. I know a lot of my students follow me and pay attention to this. A lot of my former players or current players when I was working it. So to me, I think what I'm the most proud of this podcast is the fact that we have been able to grow our male to female ratio on both our social media and our podcast episodes is almost at 50-50, where a year ago it was maybe 75-25, 80-20. Like, it wasn't close. So
Yeah.
we have figured out how to kind of really balance who we are and how we can get people to pay attention to us. And we feel like the formula is being humorous in a way that is, we don't have to swear, we don't have to say anything inappropriate, we don't have to do an inappropriate segment to get a laugh out of people. So
Yeah.
I just want to say that, like, that's something that I don't get asked a lot, and sometimes I forget to say when I'm on podcasts.
Definitely.
But to me, that's the thing I'm the most proud of. I'm the most proud of that I've been able to stay consistent with what I wanted in my vision as far as our content and how clean I wanted it to be. And that's not easy. Like, it's funny when someone drops an F-bomb. I laugh all the time when people do it on social media and they
Yeah.
use it right or time it right. Like, it is funny. So it's a little bit of a challenge when you can't show yourself or your humor off in that way, because you are trying to, at least me, I'm trying to be a role model and I'm trying to do it the right way. And if I can live my life the right way and trying to live it the right way, then I know that's going to, like, positively affect everything else in my life. Being a dad, being a teacher, being like a good person. And yeah, that's like what I'm most proud of about this. So yeah, that's my soapbox little spiel at the end there, and I'll stick to it.
For sure, for sure. But like, look at how far just being yourself and sticking to your morals gets you. It can get you far. And
Yeah,
that's, exactly what you're doing. So
yeah.
keep going, man. I'm excited for all of us. I'm excited to just continue to see all of us just continue to grow and just stay true to the real reason and purpose why we started all these things. It's been
Yeah,
awesome.
and congrats to you guys and the direction that you have gone and the positivity that I think you guys put out there and the conversations that you have. I think that that is why I pay attention to you guys so much, because you do talk about relevant everyday life things that either people sometimes are afraid to talk about or don't talk about enough. And I commend you for that. Even before coming on to this, you were kind of doing some social media stuff, and I was in the waiting room and I could hear you and talking about mental health and just putting those messages out there. And I was like, man, that's a good dude right here. Like, and so that's just kind of like what I say to you, like, just keep going, man. Like, what you're doing and what you all have been doing, it's been interesting. I've been paying attention to it, and I think time is just going to be it for you guys, because you got to figure it out. So just keep going. Just keep going.
For sure. And lastly, like, just before we close, like, and I do want to say, like, I can't do it without you guys. Like, this isn't just, it isn't just a me thing anymore. I really appreciate it. And shout out to Kayla again, who's not here, but just how we've been able to grow and continue. Like, I say it all the time, but like, it really is like, thank you guys for everything that you guys have been able to contribute and put into it, and helping my vision grow into your vision and grow into what it is so far. And we're just continuing to look into the future at how much bigger it can be. So just wanted to plug them as well too.
You guys I mean, it's the team is awesome. Like, I mean that. Like, you guys, I listen. So just so you know, one of those views on YouTube, those are me.
Well, we appreciate every single one. Thank you so much. Well, Anthony, again, I want to thank you one last time. This has been another amazing conversation that we've had. I hope everybody has enjoyed this episode. I want to say God bless to everybody. Shout out to MOCG Media. Shout out to 41st, I can't talk today. 41st Studios for allowing us to be in this beautiful space. Shout out to the Beyond Podcast. Make sure you guys check them out. Tune in, doing amazing things. And if you want to challenge anybody in rock, paper, scissors, they got the guy for you. So be sure to check them out. And until next time, my name is Jay Faith.
My name is L.Y.F.E.
And we got Anthony Petrelis from the Beyond Podcast. And this is the Right Mind Wednesdays podcast. We'll catch y'all next time. What's up?
Peace out.
Peace out.